not a, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Head out to the Wildcat 7 days a week, including on game day, which is Thursday night football, as well as all throughout Monday all throughout Sunday, as well as on Monday Night Football. A lot of great stuff when it comes to the NFL season. It's been a great start in the first 4 weeks. We are here in week 5, bringing you fantasy football advice, and I cannot thank you enough for your support over these weeks, the questions that you have asked, and all the things that you've done to be a part of the show from all over the country and the world. So I thank you so very much for the support and the goodness that you give. The Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, like I said. And of course, you can go and visit the Wildcat Sports Pub there on site on location. You can also go for takeout and delivery by calling 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat. So we're going to jump into it. If you have a question, you can send it right over to me on youtube.com. So you go to this specific video or audio feed, but you can find us worldwide on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and the audio feed will have us on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So you can go to any one of those outlets and feel free to send in a message to me about your specific fantasy football team. Happy to give you fantasy football advice to the best of my ability and to let you know what I'm thinking about your team specifically. We talk about waiver wire stuff as well as free agency, trades, who to start, who to sit. So whatever you have, send it right over. And like I said, more than happy to help you out in planning your fantasy football week. We are here in NFL Week 5 of the 2024-25 season, and happy to talk about it and get into it. We're coming off of an interesting week in week 3 for sure, and then week 4, obviously some teams had some blowout scenarios. Some things happened. Like, I don't know why the rest of the NFL would allow a team like the Baltimore Ravens to reel in a Derrick Henry, but again, not everybody makes those smart decisions, and I don't know why Tennessee would let him go. I don't think Tennessee is better off because of it by any stretch of the imagination. And, you look at this thing where there's this mentality of, yeah, well, running backs are a dime a dozen, and, you could go and find whoever you want, and you use them for a couple years, and then you let them go because they get too old and blah, blah, blah. There's certain guys that just hang tough with time. There's certain guys that you would say are maybe one of the best in the NFL early in their career, and you'd still say that. And I would say that about Derrick Henry. Who stiff arms like Derrick Henry? And I remember specifically a stiff arm he put on the Jacksonville Jaguars late in a game when I was in Jacksonville watching this game from the press box. And the funny thing is that within the last couple days, I'm watching TV and they're talking to Derrick Henry, and they bring up that footage, and they're like, what about this play? And I'm just like, they're like the stiff arm heard around the world type of thing. And it's true. I mean, he is just one heck of a player, and I don't know why Tennessee would let him go. This whole like age issue of like, this guy's too old and this and that and whatever, I think is absolutely ridiculous. And we saw what Baltimore was able to do. I mean, we saw how Baltimore plays. We saw Baltimore's ability out there. Baltimore's a tremendous team, and they deserve a lot of respect for the work that they put in because they already had talent. They were smart enough to go and get Lamar Jackson, and to see what they've done up to this point, give credit where credit is due, in my opinion. And, they should absolutely have it. So I appreciate the work that they've done and definitely see a lot of value in that work when we're looking at this team and looking at the fact that they have just been they've been a great team without having this. And now that they have it, I mean, you look at Derrick Henry coupled with everything else that's on that roster, and you can't help but think to yourself that this is a team that is really putting a lot of great things out there. And I think that people need to appreciate that, because there's a lot to be had and a lot to be said about what the Baltimore Ravens have become. Now the Ravens this week are going to be at the Bengals. That always makes for a good game, so I'm looking forward to seeing that game itself and seeing what that can be. But of course, we're always going to start with Thursday Night Football. If you have a question, as always, make sure you send it in to us. Send it to the video feed or the audio feed so that I can get it and respond to it in real time. And happy to answer your questions. We're going to start with Tampa at Atlanta, which is Thursday Night Football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've been having an interesting season. They obviously have the talent. Baker Mayfield has proven that he, definitely is a quarterback in the NFL that has just resurrected his career, in my opinion. Without doubt, he's resurrected this career of his. He's done a tremendous job. And, on the other side of it, Kirk Cousins, a guy who doesn't, I think, always get the credit that he deserves. I think some broadcasters recently have, shown him some love, but he's one of those guys that I think is underestimated. He's underappreciated, and I don't know why, because he's extremely talented, and he's been an above the equator line, in my opinion, quarterback in the league for many years. And then Baker Mayfield, look at what Baker did. Baker kind of bouncing around, Cleveland letting him go and trying to figure out, what you think about, there was a time where it's like, is he going to be out of the NFL? Is he going to be like Johnny Manziel and he's on the Browns, and then all of a sudden, we see him disappear? Because there, were many instances where I called him Johnny Manziel 2.0, right? He's a little bit better talent-wise, but, is it really working? And what type of energy is he bringing to the team? Well, he has absolutely proven that he's been a tremendous player. He's proven me wrong because, well, I shouldn't say he's proven me wrong. I didn't think he was going to be, I didn't want him to see him out of the NFL, but what was going on in Cleveland had left me sitting there thinking to myself, maybe this is the end. Maybe we're not going to see him in the NFL anymore, which I think would be a shame, because I want to see everybody chase their dreams and catch them. I don't want to see people, in pain or not being able to do the things that they love to do. And I think in this scenario with Tampa Bay, we definitely are seeing Baker Mayfield in this resurgence. I think if he would have stayed with the Los Angeles Rams, there would have been a quarterback battle between him and Matt Stafford, because remember, he was brought on the team when Stafford went down and got injured, so they obviously needed some help. So I think there's a lot to be said about this history that is being written right now when it comes to the talent of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, thanks to a leader that they have in Baker Mayfield. And then on the other side, I think, there's this opportunity for this offense to actually look like an offense that you want to watch when we're talking about Hotlanta. So, this to me is going to be a really good game, and I'm excited to see it. If you have a question, as always, send it in. You can send it to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. You can send it to facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, or you can send it to wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So I have that up and ready to go. I want to make sure I had that set before we got things started here. So if you have a question, go ahead and send it in to us. Like I said, we're going to start with the Bucs and the Atlanta Falcons. We always start with the road team first, so I'm going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield is a play, in my opinion. Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, and Sean Tucker, who comes from Syracuse and comes through Syracuse, where he played college, and originally from Owings, Maryland, when we're speaking of Sean Tucker. If we look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers most recently, the Tampa Bay Bucs, in their last game, looking good. They're 3-1 on the season. The only game that they lost was a blowout loss to the Broncos at home, 26-7, atypical of them. They beat the Eagles the last time they saw the Eagles. They beat the Eagles in the postseason to advance. Then they would lose at Detroit. this season, they've already in the first 4 weeks rematched these teams. And Tampa took down Detroit and they took down Philadelphia. So after beating Philadelphia, they beat them again. And after their season ending in Detroit last season, in the postseason, when they saw Detroit this season, they took them down. So Tampa's definitely in some good footing here. And, you know, who would have thunk it? Who saw that after Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield was going to have this team be a playoff caliber team? So Bucky Irving, he had a touchdown this past week, 10 carries, 49 yards, which was exactly what Rachaad White did to the T. 10 carries, 49 yards, 4.9 yards a carry. Rachaad White did not have a rushing touchdown, though. Baker Mayfield, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. Mike Evans got himself involved. 8 catches, 94 yards, 14 targets, led the team in all those categories. Plus, he had a touchdown. Trey Palmer had a touchdown as well, catching all 3 thrown his way. Godwin, 9 targets, 6 catches, 69 yards. So, some good stuff going on there. Rachaad White caught 2 out of the 3 thrown his way out of the backfield. Bucky Irving caught 1 out of 2 thrown his way out of the backfield. Sean Tucker carried the ball 1 time for 3 yards, and he had a catch for 14 yards out of the backfield. So, in this matchup, I mean, Rachaad White and Bucky Irving are both being utilized. They're playing Atlanta. I'm not sold on Atlanta's defense, so I like Baker Mayfield in this matchup. I think it's going to be a back and forth. It's going to be, you know, it's a Thursday night game. It's a primetime game. So I think there's some good things to be had here. And so I would suggest that Baker Mayfield, I'm going to have him as a mid-range one. It depends on who you have here. And we got a question that came in from Tim. Tim, thanks for your question. Tim, I think you've been on here before. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe while you're waiting for the answer here. But if you have subscribed, I appreciate it. Bucky Irving, I'm going to call Rachaad White a running back 2. I'm going to call Bucky still a flex guy, a running back 3. Not a bad guy to put out there, but I got him as a running back 3. I think he has value. Mike Evans was limited in practice with a knee injury, so just monitor that. If Mike is able to go, I like Mike and I like Godwin. Those guys are guys that win, lose, or draw, they're going to eat, right? Better situation than the situation with Tyreek Hill, unfortunately, with what's going on in Miami, where, you know, he's not eating. Again, I mean, it's the difference between having Baker Mayfield as your quarterback and having a bunch of backups, but a sad situation for Tyreek Hill. But we'll get to that when we get to that. For the Atlanta Falcons on the home side of things, Kirk Cousins most recently here for the Atlanta Falcons, going back and looking now. Remember, they played some interesting games. They lost 18-10 in the first week to Pittsburgh. Then they went to the other side of Pennsylvania and played the Eagles on the road, beat them 22-21. Then they lost to the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. So, I mean, they've had a Monday night situation, which they beat the Eagles. They had a Sunday night situation, which they lost 22-17 to the Chiefs at home. And then they beat the Saints 26-24 most recently here, after the Saints came off of a weird game, 15-12 at home, and a loss to the Eagles. So the Atlanta Falcons in that Saints divisional game that they just had, taking a look at hot Atlanta, I mean, Kirk Cousins, 21-35. He didn't throw a touchdown. He had an interception, and he got the ball out to Drake London. He caught 6 of the 12 thrown his way for 64 yards. Speaking of Drake, Mooney caught 3 of the 6 thrown his way for 56 yards. Pitts targeted 3 times, didn't catch any. They're going to have to figure that out. Bijan caught all 4 coming out of the backfield. Tyler Algier caught all 2 that were thrown his way coming out of the backfield. So, I mean, Kirky's getting the ball out, and he's doing some good things with that. In this game, I got him as a low-end 1, high-end 2, so I got Baker above him as a mid-range 1 at quarterback. I think they both have value, but I don't know if Kirk Cousins' numbers are going to help you to win your week in fantasy, so to speak, right now. So that's where I have him at quarterback. Bijan is on the injury report, limited with a hamstring. Hamstring and groin stuff, not great, especially when it comes to running backs and wide receivers. So just monitor that. God willing, he and everyone who's trying to heal from something will be okay and stay okay. and heal completely and for good, and no matter what, through God, and handle well whatever comes their way in Jesus' most precious name, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. That, healing that's important. And to me, that goes above and beyond, because we're talking about human beings here, not machines, and I think some people get that confused. So Bijan, if he's able to go, I don't love him in this game, but I'm going to call him a running back too. Algier I'll have as a flex guy, because sometimes he has good numbers, and obviously he's getting opportunities in the backfield, and he's catching a couple passes, and he had 8 carries, Bijan had 7, and Tyler did more, with Bijan having 8 carries, 60 yards, 7.5 yards a carry, and Bijan 7 for 28 for 4 yards a carry. So, I like Algier, but I still like him as a flex, just because if I tell you to play him outright in your 1 or your 2 at running back, sometimes he has games where he doesn't get a lot of action. So I'm going to put him as a flex, but if Bijan is not able to go, then Tyler steps into probably a running back 2 for me. Drake London, I would call him a wide receiver 2. Pitts, I don't know what to do with him. He's got the caliber, in my opinion, of being a tight end 1, but it's not happening. So I'm going to call Mooney a flex guy in a deep league, and I'm going to call Pitts. I'm going to call him a low end 1, high end 2, but I feel like I almost have to call him a 2 because he's not getting the ball. So, they threw to him 3 times, he didn't catch any. So it's a weird situation. Tim has a question here. Tim, drop Isiovis for Keenan Allen or Xavier Legette. Interesting. So I would say, that's a good question. I would say, looking at Andre Iosivas by the numbers, at this point, the Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver out of Princeton, shout out to Princeton, shout out to the Ivy Leagues. So, he had 2 touchdowns against Kansas City. He had a touchdown against Washington. He went quiet this past week. 1 target, 1 catch, but it was for 29 yards. I think he's one of the hotter sleepers, Tim. I don't know if I would get rid of him. And Keenan Allen, we know he gets injured, and Xavier Legette is in a situation where he's at the mercy of what quarterback they play. So I don't know if I would part ways with Iosivas. Let me first look at something here that's going to help me make my decision. But, yeah. I like Keenan Allen. I do. But, Iosivas isn't doing anything wrong he's a good sleeper right now, and I think people that don't... I think if you drop him, Tim, somebody's going to pick him right up. That's what I honestly think. If you drop him, I think somebody's going to go after him. So... I think that... if it was me, I'm not... It's not that I'm not enticed by maybe the Keenan Allen move, but... Keenan Allen's got more tread on the tires, or more wear on the tires, and he's obviously a guy that hasn't always stayed healthy. So I'm a little concerned with that. I'd probably stick with Iosivas because they're involving him in the offense. And normally we circle the games here that we're talking about, so let me make sure I do that. There is a London game that's going to be going on, and that London game, just plopped down in London town, is going to have the Jets at the Minnesota Vikings. The Jets at the Minnesota Vikings game. Folks, make sure that you set yourself up for that. I don't want you going to bed on Saturday night, right? And you're like, hey, I just watched a bunch of college football. I had a great time. Da-da-da-da-da. It's midnight. It's 1:10 in the morning. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, no, I didn't set my roster. So do me a favor. Set your roster. by Saturday night. Don't wait until Sunday morning because I don't want you to miss out on this. This is one of those games that creeps up on you because it's in London. So because London's ahead of time, they want to put their game more in their afternoon. So it's in our morning. So the game's like around 9 a.m. a little bit. What is it, like 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure that you set your lineup the night before. Don't get caught up in like, oh yeah, I'll get to it and I remembered I got to do it. Just do it when you're thinking about it so that you get it done, because that game is going to be on in the morning. And if we go and look at the NFL schedule, just to give you an exact time here, that game is going to be at 9:30 a.m. So that's what I thought. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. It's going to be on NFL Network, and it's at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. And so the New York Jets at the Minnesota Vikings, and these are two good teams. You know, these are two teams. We're talking about teams that can do some good things on defense. We're talking about some teams that can move the ball on offense. We're also talking about Sam Darnold playing the team that drafted, playing up against the team that drafted him, now as a Minnesota Viking, going up against the New York Jets. So that's a cool storyline in the background of all of this. And listen, the Jets they've struggled. They've had moments. They're 2-2 this season. They've done some good things. They beat the Patriots, who I don't think are a really good team right now. And they beat the Titans, who I don't think are a really good team right now. Against good teams, they lost 32-19 on Monday Night Football in Aaron Rodgers' first full game as a Jet. And that was in week 1, 32-19 that game. And then just lost to the Broncos in a 10-9 game where they just could not get that ball in the end zone. So, we go back and we look at this and say, what were the numbers like? Aaron was 24 of 42, 225. And Braylon Allen, 8 carries, 34 yards, 4.3 yards a carry. Rodgers, 5 carries, 26 yards, 5.2 yards a carry. Breece Hall, 10 carries, 4 yards, 0.4 yards a carry. 0.4. Mike Williams, 5 targets, 4 catches, 67. And Lazard, 8 targets, 5 catches, 58. Garrett Wilson, 8 targets, 5 catches, 41. Tyler Conklin, the tight end, who I think is a little sleeper for fantasy football right now, 8 targets, 4 catches, 17 yards. And Braylon Allen caught 1 out of the backfield. Breece caught 2 of the 5 thrown his way. Braylon caught the only one that was thrown his way. So, Garrett Wilson fumbled the ball and lost it. The offense, we know that the defense is good, right? But the offense has to click. And the Jets are playing up against a good Minnesota Vikings team. Dare I say it, this could be a playoff Minnesota Vikings team. And like I've told you before, some players play up. When they see the team that let them go, the team that they parted ways with, sometimes those guys have breakout games in those matchups. So, I think that in this game, we're kind of in a situation where I don't know if I want to be the Jets, especially the way the offense has been playing. I don't know if this is going to be a team that's going to have an answer to the Minnesota Vikings that have been a really good team this season. So I'm going to say for the Jets, Rodgers is on the injury report. We saw him grab his leg. He's questionable. He's a knee injury. We could see Tyrod Taylor. He's the only other quarterback on the roster who's not injured. Jordan Travis is, of course, rehabbing from a torn ACL. So, Breece and Braylon, I'm going to call Breece a running back 2. I'm going to call Braylon a 3. I would actually personally, hopefully your team is deep enough, but you probably drafted Breece a little bit higher, I would imagine, but especially in a deep league. I would say Breece and Braylon, if you can make them your running back 3 this week, I would do that. Garrett Wilson, I'm going to call him a wide receiver 2. Tyler Conklin, I'm going to call him Conklin for me, I'm going to say low range 1, high end 2. Keep in mind, he was a Minnesota Viking. So in this Sam Darnold, former Jet, now a Viking, you have Tyler Conklin, former Viking, now a Jet. So he's got some things to say about this as well, right? You know, he's got this a big time game for him to go up against his team that he's no longer with. So we'll see what that looks like for the New York Jets. But I got Conklin as a low end one, high end two, just because of the fact that this offense has been sputtering. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't 100%, I think that affects it. Sam Darnold, I got him as a mid range one. I mean, he's playing a good defense. I think he's going to score. And, you know, so I'm going to have him as a mid range one. Hopefully, he's not the guy that has to be your starter. But if you could play two quarterbacks, he might not be a bad bet, especially with this being the first week of the 2024-25 season that has buys for teams. By the way, they're on your screen, but the buys, the Detroit Lions are off, the Los Angeles Chargers and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tennessee Titans are all off this week, so make sure you make a note of that. Aaron Jones, I got him as a starter in this game, so I think you should put Aaron Jones out there. I also believe Justin Jefferson should be out there. Jordan Addison maybe as a flex out here because of the defense they're playing, so I'm going to call him a wide receiver 3, and that's how I look at it for this matchup. Once again, if you have a question, send it in to me. Happy to answer your questions around the country and the world. The next game we're going to go to is the game of the draft picks, Carolina and Chicago. Chicago, a couple of years ago, gave Carolina their number 1 overall draft pick, and Carolina drafted Bryce Young. And now Bryce Young is sitting in 2024, a season after getting that number 1 pick in a trade with the Chicago Bears. Carolina is not even playing that quarterback as their starter. And I hope that everything works out for Carolina, and I hope that everything works out for Bryce, because the whole situation, or Bryce Young, because this whole situation it's ultimately sad. I mean, obviously the draft worked out for Chicago. We'll see when it comes to giving up the number 1 pick and then ending up having the number 1 pick and the number 9 pick in the 2024 draft. So they give up the number 1 pick to Carolina. Carolina gets Bryce Young. Bryce Young isn't even playing. They've sat him for backup Andy Dalton. And then you look at Chicago, Caleb Williams put them in some close games. He's very talented. We'll see what that leadership looks like as time goes forward. But we know that he's talented at the very least. And then you look at Rome Odunze, the guy that they got number 9 overall. So to me, Chicago won this thing because Carolina got Bryce Young. We're still the worst team in the NFL, and they didn't get to pick early. They didn't get to pick in those first, few picks because they had given up to Chicago. So the Chicago Bears won that. We'll see if they'll win this. This, to me, is going to be probably a better matchup than maybe some people think it's going to be, and that is because I just feel like this Carolina team under Andy Dalton's leadership on offense, I just feel like they could be a different team. And there's some good that can come from this. We've already seen that Andy Dalton can have some good come of this. So, for Carolina, we'll go first to the road squad, and then we'll go to the Chicago Bears. But Carolina, although they didn't win when it came to the actual draft itself, and making that trade with Chicago, I think Chicago got that victory. Carolina on the other side with Andy Dalton, I mean, Andy's done some good things. Andy's another guy where it's like he was in Chicago or Cincinnati forever. Then he leaves Cincinnati, and the question becomes, because, they go get Joe Burrow and whatnot, and then you think, okay, some people I think thought that Andy Dalton's career was over in the NFL. Like, there's not going to be any more Andy Dalton in the NFL. He's done what he could. Cincinnati let him go. They got Burrow now. This guy's done. He's toast. And that's not the case at all. And then he goes to Dallas. He's a backup, and he's, doing his backup work. Then he comes to Carolina, and he's done some good things. Now, in the first game that he was a starter, they went to Las Vegas, beat the Raiders 36-22. They just lost to Andy's old team 34-24 in Carolina. And like I told you, some of those games, a guy playing his old team is going to go and light it up, and in other times, it doesn't always go that way. In this case, he was 25 of 40, 220, two touchdowns, 1 interception. and the team lost by 10. Deontay Johnson was targeted 13 times, caught 7, 83 yards and a touchdown. Xavier Legette, 10 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards and a touchdown. Mingo caught 3 of the 5 thrown his way. And Felipe Franks, who used to be a quarterback for the Florida Gators, go Gators, in college, is now transitioned himself in the NFL to a different role here. He was targeted once, he didn't catch it. He's now a tight end, Felipe Franks, wearing number 84. So, I mean, for Carolina, is Andy Dalton a guy that I want to tell you to put? Listen, neither one of these quarterbacks should be your one. Neither one of these guys should be your one when I'm talking about this matchup, Carolina at Chicago. So I got Andy as a quarterback too. Chuba Hubbard, yeah, I mean, Chuba 18 carries, 104 yards and a touchdown, 5.8 yards a carry. I mean, I shouldn't even go because I like him. I believed in him when he was backing up Christian McCaffrey. I thought he was going to get involved in some goal line stuff, some third down stuff. But it seems like here under Andy Dalton, there's more of a game for him. So I actually do like Chuba, and they're playing Chicago. So I'm going to call Chuba a running back 2. Deontay Johnson, I'm going to call a low-end 2, high-end 3 at wide receiver. And, I mean, I'm going to call Deontay a 2. I mean, Deontay's been getting involved. And as far as Xavier Legette goes, I'm going to call Legette a flex wide receiver right now. That could change for the rookie. I could raise him up a little bit, but now I'm going to call him that. As far as Chicago goes, DeAndre Swift, a guy who was talented in Detroit but wasn't staying healthy. And then he spends a season in Philadelphia, and I think he has a good season, and they let him go. So now, looking at DeAndre in this backfield, he had 16 carries, 93 yards, 5.8 yards a carry, and a win against the Rams at home for Chicago. 5.8 yards a carry and a touchdown. Rashawn Johnson also had a touchdown. 7 carries, 26 yards, 3.7 yards a carry. And DeAndre Swift led the team in receiving as a running back. 7 targets, 7 catches, 72 yards. Check down for Caleb is working. So I like DeAndre Swift in this game. I got him as an RB1 in this game because they're playing Carolina. So I'm going to call him as overall, and I'm going to say an RB2 safely. But I really like him in this matchup, especially if Caleb's going to keep checking down. And then Rome Odunze, I got him as a flex guy. And DJ Moore, first touchdown with Caleb Williams, came recently here. Keenan Allen is back. So I'm going to say Keenan Allen. I'm going to flex him out. I'm going to flex out Rome. I'm going to call DJ a wide receiver 2 because I'm not quite sure exactly where that ball is going to go. But I do think that there's value for each of those guys. The next game we're going to get into before we take a step aside here inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for the Fantasy Football Power Hour presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Perfect place to watch all of the games. If you have a question, send it in to our feeds. You can get us on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're connecting with the show, we thank you so much for tuning in. If you have a question on your specific team anywhere in the world, send it over, and I'm happy to answer those questions. Thank you to Tim for his question. Baltimore at Cincinnati, a battle inside of the AFC North, and Baltimore is coming off of a massive victory over the visiting Buffalo Bills. And shout out to, I love the black jerseys, by the way. I love the all black with Baltimore. It just reminds me of like when Baltimore first was coming into the league and playing the video game. I just remember the all black, so I'm a big fan of it. And Baltimore now going on the road to face off against the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's get into this matchup. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, yes. Derrick Henry, yes. Again, I think that was such an easy thing to look at. Is Derrick Henry worth getting? Absolutely. Did Tennessee make a mistake? Absolutely. So, and Buffalo's not a bad team. Their defense is suspect at times, but, for Baltimore to do what they've done and to win 35-10 over the Buffalo Bills, that's their biggest win of the season as far as margin of victory. So when you look at Lamar, 13 of 18, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 199 yards, 8.3 yards carry, and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson had a rushing touchdown, 6 carries, 54 yards, 9 yards a carry. Justice Hill out of the backfield was the leading receiver against the Bills. 6 targets, 6 catches, and one of those being a touchdown. Derrick Henry also got a touchdown. So the running back scored the receiving touchdowns in this game. Isaiah Likely, he was targeted twice, and he caught one of them. Mark Andrews targeted once, didn't catch any. Mark Andrews shut down in this game, didn't have anything in there. Zay Flowers, 2 targets, 1 catch, 10 yards. Bateman caught the one thrown his way. So, I mean, this was the running back show for the Baltimore Ravens. Are you surprised? I mean, they're a running team. So, I like Derrick Henry. Justice Hill, I would flex him out. I'm going to call him a running back 4 this week. Zay Flowers, this is tough when you look at their receivers. I mean, Zay, I would flex him out as a wide receiver 3. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are eating from each other, so that's a tough one. I'm leaning toward Likely, but I don't like this situation because it's likely that these guys are going to continue to take from each other and not really provide you a great fantasy output, which is sad because I think in reality, they're arguably the best tight end duo in the country, and I said that before the season even started. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, I like him in this. Zach Moss, a former Buffalo Bill, and Zach was a guy that I thought was going to catch on in Buffalo. I thought good things were going to happen in Buffalo, and it just didn't work out. And now we're looking at Zach Moss, and most recently in the road win over the Carolina Panthers, the first win for the team this season. Speaking of Cincinnati, he had 15 carries, 51 yards, 3.4 yards a carry. Chase Brown, who I haven't given up on, a rookie from last year, 15 carries, 80 yards, 5.3 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. So Chase getting it done. I had some people wondering if they should drop Chase Brown, I think last week when we were talking, because you look at it, and if you add up the first 3 weeks combined, he had less carries than he had in week 4's game. In the first 3 weeks combined, he had 14 carries in 3 weeks. And then he had 15 against Carolina. Scored his first touchdown, got 2 of them, like I said, and that was in the game against Carolina. Now, Carolina's not a great team, so, I look at it in that respect. But for a round 5 pick, Chase Brown, I'm going to flex him out as a running back 3. Zach Moss, I'll call him a low-end 2, high-end 3. Jamar Chase is worth the play. Andre Yasivas, you could flex him out as maybe a wide receiver 4. T. Higgins, if I'm going to Chase is the guy I'm going to put out there. I'm going to put T as a 2, maybe a lower-end 2. Mike Gesicki, I don't feel great about him in this matchup. So, with that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll be back right after this. If you have a question, send them on in, and thank you for being with us. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And make sure if you're out there in the North Carolina area to head out to the Pinehurst location for Brooklyn Pickle on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, right down the road from Pinehurst Golf Courses. And something that you've never had down in the state of North Carolina, you never had sandwiches like the Brooklyn Pickle, because with all the sandwich places we have here in central New York, we've never had anything like the Brooklyn Pickle, and we know how incredible it is. So very happy that it's down in North Carolina now, because I love that state, and I'm excited that they get to try some awesome food from an awesome company. So thank you to Craig Kawadla as well as Brian Bruno and the team at the Pinehurst location at 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Let's get into the battle of the red, white, and blue. The Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans. Buffalo is having themselves a little bit of a gamut. They seem to have this every year, is going up against teams that they very much could see in the postseason. They just went to Baltimore, and then after going to Baltimore, they have to go to Houston. So the Buffalo Bills getting challenged frequently and early in the season, and this is a good game. Now, the Houston Texans had an interesting game this season where they really struggled against the, when we go back and look at the Houston Texans, they had a mighty struggle against the Minnesota Vikings, and they lost that game 34-7. That's the only game that they lost, though. So when you look at the Houston Texans this season, they've had themselves a good season to start. And the Buffalo Bills, they haven't had themselves a bad season. They're 3-1. The only game that they lost was the game at Baltimore. So they beat the Cardinals by 6. They blew out the Dolphins on the road. They blew out the Jaguars on Monday Night Football by 37 points with their friggin' backup scoring. And they just got blown out by the Ravens 35-10. So they went from blowout to blowout. Here's something interesting about the Buffalo Bills. In their last 10 games, the team that got blown out scored 10 points. In their last 3 games, the team that got blown out scored 10 points exactly. Bills blew out the Dolphins 31-10. Bills blew out the Jaguars 47-10. Bills got blown out by the Ravens 35-10. So 10 has been that number. Obviously, Buffalo doesn't want to be on that side of it anymore. When we go back and look at that game, we know that guys have been performing for the Buffalo Bills, but more of a quiet day. Josh Allen, 16-29, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Cook, 9 carries, 39 yards, 4.3 yards a carry. Josh Allen, 5 carries, 21 yards, 4.2 yards a carry. Khalil Shakir, 5 targets, 4 catches, 62 yards. Dalton Kincaid led the team in targets, 7, receptions, 5, and he had 47 yards. Keon Coleman, the rookie out of Florida State, 4 targets, 3 catches, 51 yards. Cook caught the only one thrown to him out of the backfield. And Dawson Knox had 1 catch in this game. So, in the most recent game against Buffalo. So, I'm going to tell you, in this matchup, Josh Allen, how do you keep him off the field? Got to play him. James Cook, I'm going to call Cookie. I'm going to call him a running back 2. I got to call him a running back 2. And they're playing up against Houston. He might be a running back 3. But I'm going to say, let's say running back to lower end running back 2 this week. I like Josh Allen. I definitely like Dalton Kincaid. Khalil Shakir has an ankle injury. God willing, he'll be okay. So just monitor that. Keon Coleman, I think, is worth putting out there as well for you in this game. For the Houston Texans, they just spread this ball all over the field. C.J. Stroud, obviously. Nico Collins, obviously. Stephon Diggs is playing his old team, so I think he's going to be asked. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not going in the huddle telling Stroud, you need to not only give me the ball, you need to throw it up top and let me go get it down the field and show these DBs that I used to be on the team on that I can get them. So look for Diggsy to be out there. I'd probably call him wide receiver 2 in this game. Definitely to flex him out, but let's call him a wide receiver 2. Tank Dell has a chest injury. He's questionable. God willing, he'll be okay and able to return. And Joe Mixon, God willing, for them both as well, too. Cam Akers and Agumbawale, who played his old team in Jacksonville. He got the touchdown against them, Dare Agumbawale. So Joe Mixon, questionable ankle injury. Damian Pierce, questionable with a hamstring injury. So neither one of those things is good. Joe Mixon's labeled day-to-day. So in this matchup, I think they're probably going to go more through the air. If Tank Dell's able to go, let's call him a wide receiver 3. Let's call Diggsy a 2. Let's call Nico a 1. Let's call Dalton Schultz. I would call him I want to call him a 1, but like maybe a mid. I don't know if I want to call him a mid-range 1, but I mean, if we look at him most recently against the Jags in the 24-20 victory, Schultz had 5 targets, 3 catches, 34. Yeah, I mean, I feel good about. I'm going to call Schultz in this matchup between him and Kincaid. I'm going to call Kincaid a definitely a 1, and I'll put Schultz a little bit below him, but I feel good about Schultz in this game. Like I said, if you have a question, make sure you send them in so we can answer them for you. Next one we got up here is going to take us to the matchup between the Jaguars and the Colts. This game is at home for Jacksonville, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have had themselves not a great season. They've had a really tough season, and they're 0-4. And they had a good game against the Texans, but they didn't finish it. And again, I mean, I talked about it in the first hour of the show, but this team they're just showing me that there's something wrong. There's something that just seems off with the team. I don't think it's just sheer talent. It just seems like we're just in a place where, and Wesley, you sent me a question here, so let me make sure it said, do I trade Zay Flowers and Travis Etienne for Monty? For David Montgomery? Is this what you're saying to me? So let's see, Wesley here. Are you saying David Montgomery? Because if you're saying David Montgomery, which is what I think you're saying, then I could definitely I would say, yeah, just let me know if it's David Montgomery, because if it's David Montgomery, then that's, yeah, so it is David Montgomery. Okay. So do I trade Zay Flowers and ETN for Montgomery? I mean, tell me who your other receivers are, Wesley. That'll help me out, because if you're going to trade to a running back and a wide receiver for a running back, I really love David Montgomery. I have him on one of my teams here, and so I definitely appreciate what he's done, and I think he was tremendous last year. I think he's been tremendous this year. So just send that over to me, who your wide receivers are, Wesley, and then I could give you a fair assessment of that. I mean, Travis Etienne is talented. There's no doubt about it. And he's utilized in the Jaguars offense. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Etienne, 11 carries, 50 yards, 4.5 yards a carry. Tank Bigsby went friggin' off. 7 carries for 90 yards. 12.9 yards a carry for the big man. For the muscle monster out there with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he had himself a good week this past week. But I want to go first to the Indianapolis Colts as they are the road team. So, I mean, Anthony Richardson, I got him as a mid-range QB1 because he's playing a Jacksonville defense that has allowed teams to obviously stay in the game. And for all these teams, they've won. So, Anthony Richardson, he was only 3 for 4, 71 yards. Joe Flacco had to come in. So, if Anthony was able to go, then I would talk about Anthony Richardson being potential here. But I got a feeling with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the way that they've been playing this season, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is for the Colts. They're going to do something. Now, the oblique injury has Anthony Richardson questionable. If Anthony Richardson is able to go in this game, I do think he has value. I don't have him as an outright quarterback 1, but I do think he has value. So I want to make sure that I say that. Now, as far as, and you can tell me who your quarterbacks are if it's Anthony versus somebody. As far as Jonathan Taylor, he's questionable with an ankle injury. If he's able to go, I mean, he's a burner. 21 carries, 88 yards most recently, and a 3-point win over the Steelers. That's the first loss of the Steelers this season with Justin Fields as their quarterback. So Taylor, 21 for 88, 4.2 yards a carry, and a touchdown. Michael Pittman, 113 yards against Pittsburgh. So, people that were wanting to fire sale him, he's obviously done something good most recently. 9 targets, 6 catches, 113 yards. Josh Downs, the wide receiver they got last season as a rookie out of North Carolina, 9 targets, 8 catches, and a touchdown. Drew Ogletree got a touchdown for Indy as well. Alec Pierce started off with some fantasy value going on. He's kind of tempered down here. 2 targets, 1 catch, 9 yards. Adonai Mitchell has been a non-factor. Carried the ball 1 time for 10 yards. Targeted him 3 times, and there were no catches. So in this game against Jacksonville, I like Jonathan Taylor if he can go. I like Michael Pittman, and let's call him a wide receiver 2. And then Andrew Ogletree. I mean, I think a tight end's going to score against Jacksonville, but is it going to be Ogletree, Granson, or Cox? That's the tough part. So I think there's going to be a tight end touchdown, but I don't feel good about telling you, definitely this guy's going to be the guy. So I'm going to say Josh Downs. You can flex him out. Michael Pittman, wide receiver 2. Jonathan Taylor, a running back 1, if he's able to go from that ankle injury. And a mid-range look at mid-range 1, I guess I would say, for Anthony Richardson. I mean, hopefully you have somebody better to throw out there. And then as far as Jacksonville's side of things goes, I mean, Christian Kirk's been getting involved, good PPR, Brian Thomas Jr. So I think those guys are both worth the play. I'm going to call them wide receiver 2s. Evan Engram is still questionable with a hamstring injury. I like Travis Etienne in the game. He gets involved in a lot of different ways. I think Bigsby in this matchup, a divisional one, they're at home. He's not a bad flex out running back 3. Etienne, I'm going to call him a wide running back 1, pardon me. So I still think as much as Jacksonville's struggling, they have a bunch of fantasy value, is what I would say. I got questions that came in, so let me go to these questions. Wesley, I'll go back to you. So you got Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, and Mike Evans. So do you trade Zay Flowers for Etienne? Zay Flowers and Etienne for David Montgomery. Listen, Montgomery to me is a home run. Do I want you to trade Etienne for Montgomery? No. But do I give Montgomery, obviously, an edge in fantasy right now over Travis Etienne? Yeah. So I would say yes. Do the deal as for right now. But Zay could wake up. So I want to preface by saying that. But thanks for the question, Wesley. Wesley, if you haven't joined, make sure that to anybody that's on the feeds, make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Driston, I think you've subscribed, but if you haven't subscribed, then make sure you do. Driston said he does split snaps with Gibbs, but if you look at his numbers, Driston, from last year, him and Gibbs both had double-digit rushing touchdown seasons. They both had better seasons than other running backs on teams where they were the dominant guy, and Detroit found a way to make sure that they were both getting the ball and they both got into the end zone double-digit touchdowns, which you typically see by one running back and one running back only on a team. So there's good stuff with that, and I think that Detroit's figured out a way to make it work. Chef Anabi said trade Singletary for Addison. You're talking about Devin Singletary? I'm guessing, the running back. I have Scary Terry. Okay. So you got Terry McLaurin, Smitty, Ayuk, Reed, and Deontay. Running backs, ETN, Josh Jacobs, Stevenson, Single, and Eckler. So would I trade Singletary for Addison? I mean, I don't like the Giants' offense, so if that's who we're talking about. If we're talking about Devin Singletary, Chef, then I'm going to say, and Chef, I like the name here. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. So, Chef, I'm going to say Singletary for Addison. I'll say yes to getting Addison because I do think Addison's a weapon for them. And then Driston's got a question. Yeah. So, yeah, Devin Singletary. So, yeah, I mean, I would say to do it. I'm not sold on that. So, yeah, Jordan Addison gives you more value, Chef. And you got ETN and Jacobs. I feel good about that. And Eckler, obviously, when he's healthy, is always a threat. Driston said, would you start Purdy or Anthony Richardson this week, Dan? Purdy's playing Arizona, and Richardson is playing Jacksonville. Well, so here's the thing. In my leagues, you have a team quarterback, so you wouldn't have Richardson, you would have the Colts. So if he went down or if he was hampered by that injury and Joe Flacco came in, you would still get the points. And in the case of just simply Purdy or Anthony Richardson, I would go with Purdy in this. So Driston, I would go with Brock Purdy. I mean, I know the team hasn't had the most beautiful season to start, especially on the road, but I would go with Purdy, and they're going to be at home in this game, so that's good too. So I would go with Purdy to answer your question, Driston. If you have a question, send it over to me here on Wake Up Call in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. 7 days a week, including on game day. Awesome pizza, awesome wings. They got their Wildcat sauce, which is just a concoction of a bunch of different sauces that they have to create the Wildcat sauce. You can get it on regular wings, and you can get it on boneless wings. Go and get their food today. I love the chicken Caesar wrap as well. That's like my main go-to. And, of course, they have awesome fried dough for dessert. So head out to the Wildcat. And if you're going to be watching the games at home, you can call them at 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat. And you can still enjoy their awesome flavors in the comfort of your own home. So the next game that we're going to do is another divisional game in the AFC. And that's going to bring us to New England, to Foxborough. And the Miami Dolphins up against the New England Patriots. The Dolphins without Tua stink. They stink. And for the last 2 weeks, I've been sitting here on game day before the lineups lock going, do I play Tyreek Hill? Do I not play Tyreek Hill? And Tyreek Hill hasn't done much of anything because they stink without Tua. They really do. And so they're 1-3 right now. They've lost every game, in this Tua crises, which has been really unfortunate. I saw some questions that came in, so I'm going to get to your questions. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do. But Skylar Thompson came into that Buffalo game, that primetime game, and the team lost that game. I mean, they're 0-3 without Tua. That's clear. And now Odell Beckham's going to want to get involved, and this team's just, they're awful. Tyler Huntley, I told you he might get the start. He did. 14-22, 96 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He was the lead running back, 8 carries, 40 yards, 5 yards a carry, touchdown. Jalen Wright, 9 carries, 32, 3.6 yards a carry. Tyreek Hill, 3 carries, 19 yards, 6.3 yards a carry. Devon Achane, 10 carries, 15 yards. Gross. 1.5 yards a carry. Waddle While You Work had 6 targets, 4 catches, 36 yards. Reek, 7 targets, 4 catches, 23 yards. Just abysmal numbers. Devon Achane, 3 catches on 3 targets out of the backfield, 14 yards. Jalen Wright did not catch the only ball thrown his way, neither did Jonnu Smith. So I think they missed some Mike Gesicki. But, I mean, Tyler Huntley, it looks like he's going to be the guy. Tim Boyle is there as well. So, I mean, they're playing the Patriots. Achane, I'm going to call him a running back too. I'm not going to count him out yet. I'm going to call Reek, Tyreek Hill, I'm going to call him a wide receiver too. We'll see what the rest of it, we'll see what it looks like after this. Waddle, I'm going to call him a wide receiver too. If this team can't get it done, and again, I mean, they're going to New England, and New England's defense, you know, could create some stops here. I'm gonna call Achane and Reek and Waddle all guys to put out there as 2s. But if they have a poor showing after this, I don't know how I can, you know, keep going with Tyreek and Achane and whatnot. And so it's just frustrating. Fans are frustrated. I'm more than understanding of that. I'm frustrated. I'm not even a Miami. I didn't grow up a Miami Dolphin. I grew up I shouldn't say that. The first team I ever loved were the Miami Dolphins. And I was a Dan Marino fan. And I'm still a Dan Marino fan. So, you know, I mean, I have a soft spot for the Miami Dolphins. Team's just been not great. And, you know, Patriots, they're 1-3, 1-2 on the road. This game's at home. So that's good for them, you know, I guess. They haven't won a game at home, though. So, I mean, you know, is it great for them? They're 1-3 overall. They're 1-2 on the road. So that means they're 0-1 at home. Ramondre Stevenson, 13 carries, 43 yards, 3.3 yards a carry. Antonio Gibson out of the backfield, 4 targets, 3 catches, 67 yards, most recently in a loss at San Francisco, 30-13. Jalen Polk, the rookie, 7 targets, 3 catches, 30 yards. Austin Hooper, he had the tutty and 2 catches, one of them being for a touchdown. Demario Douglas. I mean, the ball's getting spread all around the field. Kayshawn got involved. KJ got involved. JaMychal Hasty, former Jag, got involved. Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, Austin Hooper, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Polk, Antonio Gibson, Tyquan Thornton. They all got involved. So, I mean, Jacoby is spreading it around the yard. But, I mean, who would I play? I mean, PPR or whatnot. Antonio Gibson, maybe you want to flex him. Ramondre, he's playing the Dolphins, so I'm going to call him a running back too this week. And Hooper and Henry, it's hard to decide between the two of them and what wide receiver. I mean, I think the Patriots are going to score because I think their offense is going to be out there. So, I mean, if you want to flex out a Polk or a Douglas or a Hooper, maybe you can do that. But, I mean, I would say the value I feel most comfortable with is Ramondre and Antonio Gibson. Ramondre is a 2. Antonio, flex him out. Give you some PPR help against a Miami team that desperately needs some help, sadly, for that team. Before we get into Cleveland and Washington, I want to get to your questions. Aiden, welcome back. In your opinion, is it a better strategy to have a deep team with decent players on your bench or trade up for as many studs as possible? I went the second route here, and bye week's gonna hurt. I started with Barkley, Gibbs, Ayuk, Mixon, Devontae, Pickens, Stevenson, Jameson Williams, Jordan Mason. I now have Barkley, Kyron Williams, Singletary, Jefferson, Olave, Devontae. Everyone else is waivers. I mean, I don't know why you would get rid of Gibbs and Ayuk and, you know, and Jameson Williams. So, I mean, I think it's a better strategy. I mean, obviously you want to have as many studs as you can, but you gotta you got to have backups for him, Aiden. So I wouldn't have let go of Gibbs, Ayuk, Jameson. I wouldn't have gotten rid of Jordan Mason. He just had another good day. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think, I mean, think about it. If you go to a smaller team and you deplete your bench, you know what I mean? Then, yeah, you got some studs, but what happens if one of them goes out? I mean, look at Olave in week 3 and how awful the offense was for the Saints. Singletary's on a bad offense with the Giants. Devontae Smith, yeah, he gets utilized, but Philly's offense is all over the place. So, Driston said, should I trade Pacheco while he's injured? I'm kind of down bad with running backs. Driston, tell me who your running backs are so I can help you with that. And then the Smitty said Jawan Jennings. Is that just a statement? so Smitty, are you asking me about him, or what's your thoughts on it? So I'm going to get into Cleveland at Washington. I'm going to let y'all write in some of your thoughts. We're going to take another step aside for a fast break. We'll be back right after this, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, and they are obviously, they're the place to go to when it comes to, think about all these players we're talking about in fantasy football. You love these players, you love your team. You can get even closer to them by going to GG Cards and Breaks and looking for their autographs, looking for their patch cards, their rookie patch autos, the RPAs, looking for graded cards of your favorite player's favorite team, favorite fantasy player. You might be a San Francisco 49er fan, but you got DeAndre Swift on your team and you love what he's doing in Chicago, so now you want to get a Swift rookie, and you go in there and GG Cards and Breaks happens to have one in the case. You never know what's going to be there, and the packs and the boxes allow you the opportunity to try your luck and see what you can get from what you do not readily know. So there's a lot of really cool stuff at GG Cards and Breaks, and they don't only have the NFL, they have the NBA, they got Major League Baseball, they have every single MLB, NFL, and NBA team has their own box. Every single one of those teams. Think about that. There's 30 MLB franchises, 30 NBA franchises, 32 NFL franchises. That means they have 92 boxes that they put together for you, the fan. Do you know how tedious that is? Do you know how much work that takes? You know how many things they have to go through to do that? They gave themselves more work on top of work just to be different in a positive way and to reach out to every MLB, NFL, and NBA fan that comes to Central New York or that lives in Central New York. That's how awesome they are. That's the extra effort. That's the personal touch. And that's just one area where I see it. So head out to GG Cards and Breaks today. Basketball, football, baseball, soccer, hockey, AEW, UFC, so on and so forth. and while supplies last. And then they also have the trading card, the TCG game. So you got Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, some graded cards in those worlds as well. So it's some Marvel cards. So make sure you find your way over to GG Cards and Breaks. You never know what is going to be in the case. You never know what's going to be in those boxes. And you never know what's going to be in the packs and boxes that have been sealed and are waiting for you to come and pick them up on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. We'll see you there. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, let's jump into Cleveland at Washington. We also had some thoughts that came in here. So D. Smitty said Jawan Jennings, and then Aiden said just Jawan Jennings. I don't know what this is in relation to, because I'm not seeing the question here. So, if you're asking me a question about Juwan, then just send that over. But right now I'm hearing a Juwan Jennings echo. So, Dristed said, I only have Breece Hall, Singletary, and Pacheco. Wide receivers, DK, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, D-Hop, Cortland Sutton, Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers. Okay, so you went wide receiver heavy. Should you trade Pacheco while he's injured? It depends on what you can get for him, Tristan. I can't outright tell you to trade Pacheco unless you're getting good value. So I wouldn't just be like, yeah, trade him. But if you have a trade that you want to send over to me, Tristan, then I can absolutely help you out with if that trade brings you value enough for you to get rid of Pacheco. So if there is a proposed trade, I'm more than happy to help you. Team Money, I think you're already a subscriber. If you're not, make sure to subscribe while you're on here. Team Money said 10-man PPR. Burrow, Jacobs, Connor, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar, Kincaid, DK, Jamison Williams, Jerome Ford, Chase Brown, Josh Downs, Dontavian Wicks, Worthy, Brooks, and okay. So trade Worthy for DJ Moore to have that fourth floor spot. That's a good question. I mean, Worthy has Pat Mahomes throwing to him. DJ has Caleb Williams. So, I mean, Xavier Worthy, and again, keep in mind, folks, he's only a rookie right now. Like, he's a rookie. The team is 4-0, and also keep in mind that they haven't had a dominant wide receiver. It's been Travis Kelce, their tight end. They haven't had a dominant wide receiver since Tyreek Hill's gone. Worthy was targeted 4 times, caught 3, 73 yards, and a touchdown most recently. Now, DJ, on his side, DJ Moore, since coming over from Carolina, is part of that trade that brought the number 1 overall pick for 2023 to the Panthers, where they got Bryce Young. I mean, DJ, 3 catches on 6 targets, a touchdown. I mean, money, I would probably keep Worthy because I think he's got more of the home run aspect of it. You know, I respect DJ Moore, but I like Worthy because I think he's got more of the home run element, and he's on an offense where there's going to be those home run plays. George Play 1. Hey, man, I don't have Barkley and Gibbs this week. I'm starting Mason, but who should I start for running back 2? Bucky, Tank, Javante, or Trey Sermon? Well, not Javante or Trey. So, Tank or Bucky? That's a tough one. I mean, I want to tell you Tank because Tank had himself such a great week, and I want to tell you Tank because he's talented. But I also am wary of that because of ETN. And then Bucky with Rashad, they're playing Atlanta, and that game's on Thursday night. So if that's a bust, you don't have anybody to help you on Sunday. So, oh boy. So I would probably say, I mean, I want to tell you tank. I just don't trust in that Jacksonville offense, but they are playing at home. So, George, I'm going to say Bucky, slight edge over Tank, but I like Tank. I do like Tank, and it's very hard for me to not pick Tank in this situation. Team Money said, but wouldn't that make Worthy boomer bust waiting on the home run that might not show up? Well, he did score last week. To where as more, yeah, I know Caleb sucks, but his targets are already there. Worthy, it's all speculation right now that his would increase. Right, but Worthy is also the fastest ever 40, so Worthy could also be the guy that gets the ball on a direct snap. He could be a guy that gets a pitch, or he can come on a reverse, where I don't see that from Moore. I think that Worthy provides more opportunities for you. So George says non-PPR redraft league. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, man, it's tough. You know, George, I want to tell you tank. But I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and they're not doing a lot. I shouldn't say they're not doing a lot. Numbers wise, they are doing a lot of good things on offense. They're just not winning. So I want to tell you slight edge to tank, but I think Bucky's a better bet for you with the team. George said also need to start 3 out of these: DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Brian Johnson Jr., Keon Coleman. All right, so George, I'm going to tell you based on what I've talked about already this morning on the show, I'm going to say Keon. I'm going to say DJ. And I'm going to say Brian Thomas. I'm not sold on... I mean, I think Brian Thomas... Oh, you said this is non-PPR, so that might change my thoughts a little bit. I mean, let's look at this. So Seattle's playing the Giants. So, I mean, I would say Brian Thomas, but Jackson Smith and Jigba close to Thomas, in my opinion. Especially with it being non-PPR. But I'm going to give Brian Thomas a little edge here. And Team Money, I'd still stick with Worthy. Because we're not waiting for him to hit a home run. He's already done some of that. So, he's already done some good things. Next game, we're going to go to Cleveland at Washington. So, I want to make sure I answered your questions coming out of the break. And I'm sitting here like, wow, we didn't even get to Cleveland at Washington yet. So, let's get to them. So, Cleveland at Washington. Browns at Commanders. Deshaun Watson, I mean, he had a better, but he's playing no, I'm not putting him out there as a quarterback. Jerome Ford for you this week. Jerome Ford, well, looking at the backfield for Cleveland in general, Cleveland's 1-3 on the season. They've only defeated the Jaguars in Jacksonville, 18-13, in the Jaguars' only home game of the season, because this is their second one with the Colts coming into town this week. So a 20-16 loss on the road against the Raiders. Shout out to my man, Boom. So Cleveland, Jerome Ford, 10 carries, 58 yards, 5.8 yards a carry. Deontay Foreman, 4 carries, 2 yards. Yuck. That was 0.5 yards a carry. Judy's getting involved a lot. Jerome Ford caught all 7 out of the backfield. I like Jerome Ford in the game. And I'm going to call him in a deep league. He might be a running back 1, but let's call him a running back 2. Low end 1, high end 2. Judy I like in this game as well. I'm going to call him a wide receiver 2. And, I mean, Coop is I don't trust Amari Cooper. Maybe in a deep league, he's a 3 or a 4 wide receiver, but I put Judy above him, and I got Jerome Ford for sure. That's like my best bet for Cleveland. And then as far as Washington goes, I mean, they're playing Cleveland. Jaden Daniels, I started him this past week. I like Jaden Daniels, so I'm going to say Jaden Daniels in this game. Brian Robinson Jr., I'm going to put him as a low end 1, high end 2 at running back, but one of your top guys that you could play a 1 or a 2 this week. Austin Eckler's got a concussion. God willing, he'll be okay and he can return. Terry McLaurin, yeah, put him out there. And Zach feels so good it hurts. I think the fantasy value lies in Washington outside of Jerome Ford. So those are my thoughts on that game. Next game that we have up, the Raiders going up against the Denver Broncos in Colorado. This is a battle of the AFC West. So, Davante Adams has allegedly requested a trade. Isn't it cute how guys are on a team and then they don't want to be on that team, or maybe they want to be on that team but they're seeking more money, then they go get more money, then they're on that team for a short amount of time, and then they decide they don't want to be on that team anymore, but they want to go somewhere else, and obviously they want to make money. So this situation with Davante Adams just looks fun. Remember when Davante was there with Aaron Rodgers and they paid Aaron? And I thought Davante and Aaron were a package deal. And then Davante's gone like 3 days later. And then he goes to the Raiders, and the Raiders changed their quarterback. The Raiders changed their head coach. And now he doesn't want to be there. Now he wants to move on. So, sounds like a little bit of a head case there, especially because we're 4 weeks into the season and you're saying you want to leave. I mean, do these people not understand when you're in the midst of a contract, if the contract says 2027, for example, and it's 2024, and you go, yeah, but I just don't want to be here. I have every right as the keeper of that contract to go, tough noogies, you're here. You know what I mean? Like growing up, that's what they would say. They'd say tough noogies, instead of saying tough SH, So, but it's like, if you're here, you're here. So Davante, 4 weeks into the season, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. Well, that's all friggin' fine and sweet. But when we look at his contract, Davante Adams is under contract with the Raiders in 2024-25, 2025-26, 2026-27, and he's an unrestricted free agent in 2027. So literally my example of we have you until 2027 is we have you until 2027. So the Raiders could turn around and go, whether you like it or not, homeboy, you're here. There used to be a time in the NFL where a player would go, I don't want to be here, and the NFL would go, you're under contract, and the team would go, you're here, so you're here. Now I feel like it's a players' league where they sign a contract, and then they're like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. He's got 3 years on his contract. He's got this year and 2 more years on his contract. If I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, I would say, Davante, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. And he's got a hamstring injury right now, so you're not even full tilt for the team. Where do these dudes get off just being like, I'm going to go to a team, I'm going to act like I want to be here, and then I'm going to hold you hostage when I have a ton of years left on my contract? It's just ridiculous to me. The rushing attack was insane this past week for the Raiders in their win. Alexander Mattison, Zamir White, DJ Turner, Brock Bowers at tight end, Tyreek McAllister, Trey Tucker, wide receiver, Gardner Minshew, the quarterback. Nuts. Jacoby Myers is getting a bunch of targets. Trey Tucker, I'm happy he's getting targets because for some odd reason, I'm a Trey Tucker magnet when you talk about GG Cards and Breaks. When I've bought boxes from GG Cards and Breaks, I get Trey Tucker rookies. I got his rookie sweater. I get his rookie cards. So, the better that he does, as soon as I saw him have a good week this past week, I'm like, cool. Now I can maybe sell some of these Trey Tucker cards. So if you want them, I got them. I got some cool ones. The rookie sweater's pretty sweet. So, yeah, I mean, who would I put out there in this game? I would put Tucker as a flex. I'd put Jacoby as a flex. I'd put Brock Bowers. If you could play 2 tight ends, I like him being your second one. But I got him as like a mid-range one, mid to low range, because Denver's got a really good defense. And then on Denver's side of it, I mean, I would put Cortland Sutton as a wide receiver 2 in a deep league, but hopefully you can flex him as a 3. Hopefully you're deeper, so you can put him as a wide receiver 3. I don't really trust in their rushing attack. I think this could be another like low scoring game. So, I mean, that's not going to bode well for anybody in fantasy. Maybe you play the Broncos defense and special teams. I wouldn't be against you doing that. Javonte, most recently, in a 10-9 win in a baseball game against the Jets. 16 carries, 77 yards, 4.8 yards a carry. Jaleel McLaughlin, 9 carries, 46 yards, 5.1 yards a carry. Sutton had a touchdown, only caught 3 of the 9 that were thrown his way. Javonte caught 2 of the 3 out of the backfield. Jaleel caught the only one that was thrown to him out of the backfield, but got back to the line of scrimmage, didn't have any yards. So, I mean, I feel probably best about Denver's defense and special teams more than I feel about anything in this game. But I would say that. I think it's going to be another low-scoring affair. So, I mean, that's where I would have it. Next game we have up, Arizona at San Fran. T-Money said some things here. In my last flex, do I start Wicks, Worthy, Ford, Downs, or Chase Brown? That's a good question, Money. You got a good team, man. I got to give you props. I don't know who else was drafted in your league, but you got a good team, Money. So, shout out to you for that. I mean, amongst those last flex, I would say Jerome Ford, because I think he's the saving grace for Cleveland's offense. I mean, Kansas City is playing on Monday night. So, team money, I would say if I'm going off of those players that you got, I would say Ford. I mean, I like a lot of these guys. I would say Ford, then Downs, then Worthy is how I kind of look at it. But, I mean, I think Ford's the guy that's... If there's going to be any fantasy coming from Cleveland, I think it comes from Jerome Ford. Arizona at San Fran. Maybe some Jerry Jeudy. Arizona at San Fran. Let's get into this game. So, I'm going to go to Zona first as the road team. The Cardinals at the Niners. The Niners just stopped the bleeding. They also stopped going on the road, and they were at home. And the Niners are staying at home for this one. So, I think that's obviously good for them. Arizona... Most recent in Arizona, and when you talk about an enigma, if you looked up enigma in the dictionary, I think you would find Arizona next to it. If you don't know what that means, if you're like, Dan, why are you throwing these words at me this morning? What is the definition of an enigma? The definition of an enigma is a person or thing that is mysterious, puzzling, or difficult to understand. So that's Arizona. So, I mean, in my opinion, that's Zona. They just lost 42-14. At home to the Washington Commanders, and Jaden Daniels and that awesome play that he's having as a rookie. I said in the preseason that he would have the best season of rookie quarterbacks of the 2024 class, and he is obviously on pace. I mean, he's far and above doing that right now. Kyler Murray had a touchdown in the last game, 16-22. James Conner, 18 carries, 104 yards, 5.8 yards a carry, and he had a touchdown. Benson, 9 carries, 50 yards. So despite everything that James got, Benson still got 50 yards, still got 9 carries, had 5.6 yards a carry. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a touchdown, 6 targets, 5 catches, 45 yards. Michael Wilson, 7 targets. He's still a sleeper to me. So 7 targets, targeted more than anybody else. 3 catches, 38 yards. Greg Dortch, he's getting involved still. Caught all 4 thrown his way for 38. James Conner caught the only pass that came out of the backfield to him. So in this game, I'm going to say James Conner, running back 2. I'm going to say Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver 2. I'm going to say Michael Wilson, a sleeper. Let's call him a wide receiver 4. Probably wouldn't play Kyler Murray in this matchup. On the other side of it, Brock isn't he Purdy. I'm going to put him out there. Jordan Mason, I'm going to put Mason out there too. Debo and Ayuk are both healthy, and Juwan Jennings is as well. I think Debo, I'm going to put Debo as a low-end 1. I'm going to put 2 in, him and Ayuk as low-end 1s. I'm not going to call them 2s, but I'm not going to call them a high-end 1. I'm going to put them somewhere in between, but I do think they're both worth the play. And George Kittle, he's questionable with rib injury, so hopefully he'll be okay. Eric Saubert might be out there for him, or Jake Tongs. So we shall see. But, I mean, I think there's a lot of value in Debo and Ayuk and Jordan Mason and obviously in Brock Purdy. So next game we're going to get to is going to take me to Green Bay at the Los Angeles Rams. So the Pack is going up against them Rams. So taking a look at Green Bay, Jordan Love, I mean, you think after seeing him in that week 1 injury at the end of the game and kind of being hampered and whatnot, it was concerning down in Brazil that this guy, how many weeks is he going to be out? And he's already back. So looking at the Green Bay Packers, this is funny. So with having Jordan Love as their starter, they're 0-2. With having Malik Willis as their starter, they're 2-0. I'm just saying. They lost in a divisional NFC North matchup against Minnesota 31-29 at home in Green Bay, the Aaron Jones Bowl. Aaron Jones against his old team, 22 carries, 93 yards, 4.2 yards carry. So for Green Bay, Jordan Love in his comeback threw 54 times. That's a hell of a comeback there. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 32 of 54 for 389 yards. Jaden Reed got a touchdown. Dontavian Wicks got 2. Tucker Kraft, the tight end, got 1. Romeo Doubs, 8 targets, 4 catches, 39 yards. Jacobs was targeted 6 times out of the backfield, caught 4 of them. Christian Watson was only targeted once, didn't catch any, and Jacobs had 9 carries for 51 yards in the game. Emmanuel Wilson still getting involved, had 1 less carry than Josh Jacobs, 27 yards. So Green Bay in this game, I'm going to say I like Jordan Love against the Rams. I'm going to call him a mid-range quarterback 1. I like Josh Jacobs. I like Emmanuel Wilson as a flex, especially in a deep league. I will say Jaden Reed is worth the play. Christian Watson's doubtful with his ankle injury. I'm going to say Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. I'm going to call them both wide receiver 3s. I'm going to call Jaden Reed a wide receiver 2. For the Los Angeles Rams, I'm going to go with, they're in this season 1-3. They just lost to the Bears on the road 24-18. And Matty Stafford, 20-29, still looking pretty. 224 yards, no touchdowns, interception. Kyron Williams is looking good. Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington. My dude, I got a guy in my league that's been in the league forever, Mark West, and he always, every year, he finds that sleeper that I feel like people don't even know his name. There's been times where he's gone and gotten a guy, and I'm like, who? And this is my job. Jordan Whittington is one of those guys. It was toward the end of the draft, that was a guy, he was like, hey, round 14, this is the guy I want. 8 targets, 6 catches, most recently, 62 yards for the rookie, Jordan Whittington, who wears number 88 for the Rams. He's a rookie out of Texas, 6th round pick, 213. That's my grandfather's number and my number put together. So I'm not surprised that he's showing up, because that's just how things happen in my life. Kyron Williams, 4 catches, 4 targets, so caught them all, plus 19 carries, 94 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So in this game, I don't know if I would play Matty Stafford. I'm going to call him a quarterback too. Kyron Williams, yes. Jordan Whittington, I'm going to call him a wide receiver 3. Tutu Atwell, I'm going to call him a wide receiver 4. And Cooper Kupp is still going to be out, and Puka's obviously out. So I'm going to say Jordan Whittington in this game is your best Ram behind Kyron Williams. Next game we're going to get to will take me to the New York Football Giants going on the road to face off against Seattle. And I could see the Giants putting up less than 10 points in this game. I could see 7 or 3. I could see them putting up less than 10 points in this game. So the Giants, I mean, Seattle, I think if you got a Seahawk, you might want to play. I mean, I would play them this week. That's why I said the Jackson Smith and Jigba question. That was a tough one. Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy. I mean, Neighbors. This is the problem in this game. His Neighbors has looked good, but he's in the concussion protocol. So God willing, he'll be okay. And we'll get to see him soon. If Malik Neighbors is able to go, I would call him in this matchup at Seattle. I'm going to call him a wide receiver 3. But if Neighbors is good to go, then you put him out there. Geno, if you got guys off this week in the bye week, this might be the week to play Geno. Kenneth Walker III, I like him as a running back 2. I like Charbonnet as a running back 3 now that Kenneth Walker's back. I like DK. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Tyler Lockett, in a game like this, maybe you can flex him out. I think all of the emphasis in fantasy goes on Seattle, especially if Malik Neighbors is unable to go. Sunday Night Football, this brings me back to my childhood. 2 teams that would go after each other in a Super Bowl situation. The Dallas Cowboys at the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Dallas has had themselves an awful start to their season. Pittsburgh, under Justin Fields, who I told you was going to be the quarterback no matter what they said about Russell Wilson. And they said, Russell, he's hampered by injury, blah, blah, blah. Listen, that when they said it was a quarterback battle, nothing inside of me believed it was a quarterback battle. And that's no offense to Russell Wilson. I told you in the preseason repeatedly that Justin Fields is the starting quarterback of this team. No matter what they say, he's the starting quarterback of this team. And he has been. The Dallas Cowboys come into this game at 2-2, looking to make a move here. They barely beat the New York Football Giants on the road, 20-15. Now they're at the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Is this the moment where the Cowboys wake the frick up? Or is this going to be another game where Pittsburgh can score a few points and get out of it alive? It's a really good question. And I think that this team is, speaking of Pittsburgh, I think they're dangerous. But Dallas plays CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott, in this game, I'm going to call him a quarterback 2 safely or a low-end 1. CeeDee Lamb's the only guy I feel really good about on Dallas' side. On Pittsburgh's side, George Pickens, let's call him a wide receiver 2. The Muth, Pat Fryermuth, let's call him a mid-range tight end 1. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren's questionable with a knee injury. God willing, he'll be okay. But if we look at Dallas most recently, and then we'll look at Pittsburgh. The Cowboys, Rico Dowdle, 11 carries, 46 yards. Zeke's not doing anything. I'm not surprised. CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson has been a great tight end. And I think Jake Ferguson, I'm not sold he's going to be great on Sunday night, but I do like him as a low-end 1, high-end. He's not the worst tight end you're going to put out there. He caught all 7 balls thrown his way against the Giants, but Pittsburgh's a better team. So I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb in this game. That's who I'm going to tell you. 8 targets, 7 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown against the Giants. On the other side for Pittsburgh, Justin Fields, I mean, do I want you to have to put him out here? They've only lost 1 game. It was most recently. It was at the Colts, and it was by 3. So Fields most recently 22 of 34, 312 yards, touchdown, no interceptions. 2 rushing touchdowns, 10 carries, 55 yards, 5.5 yards a carry. Najee, 13 carries for 19 yards. That's gross. Pickens had a 100-plus yard game. Muth caught 5 of the 7 thrown his way for 57 yards. Najee did catch 3 out of the 6 thrown his way for 54 yards out of the backfield. So, I mean, in this game against Dallas, you know what? If you got somebody off and you got Justin Fields, or you could pick him up on waiver, I'm okay putting Justin Fields out in this game. Because he's playing Dallas and because he's so involved in the rushing attack. And I like Pickens and I like Muth. I mean, hopefully you don't have to rely on Justin Fields on your team, but if you have to, this would be a week where I'm okay with it. I'm going to call him a low-end 1, high-end 2 quarterback, but I think that this game could bode well for him, especially because he runs around the yard, and not only does he throw a touchdown most recently and not an interception, he has 2 rushing touchdowns, so that creates a lot of value. Monday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints, can they finally get back to scoring some offense here? And the Kansas City Chiefs, who we know, if a call's going to go one of 2 ways, 9 times out of 10, I feel like the call is going to go in the way of Kansas City. Now, New Orleans started out 2-0. Since then, 0-2. 15-12 loss at home against the Eagles. They just lost to the Falcons on a massive field goal by Young Hui Koo of the Atlanta Falcons, a 50-plus yarder. And so 26-24, they lose that game. Now, for the New Orleans Saints, I don't think they're going to get the refs' calls. And I don't like going into a game feeling that way, but that's how I feel. And I don't want it to be that way because I want the games to be fair. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Kansas City. I just feel like they get the Jordan calls. Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, they're all worth the play. Taysom Hill, if you got to do a deep flex. But definitely Kamara and Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And then as far as Kansas City goes on their side, and I do want to just take a look here. But yeah, I mean, New Orleans, I feel good about those 3 players for you. And I mean, outside of that, I mean, everybody's good there on the injury report except for Taysom. He's questionable with a rib injury, but he would be a deep flex anyways. For Kansas City and the health of their team, and we just got a message from Jet Season. So Jet Season, if you haven't joined us here, make sure to subscribe. And I appreciate it. Should I trade Kincaid for Kelsey? No. No. Kincaid is the number 1 receiver for Buffalo, even though he's a tight end. So no. Kincaid is, I mean, look at what Kincaid's done to Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox is not a bad tight end. I think after this season, he should go elsewhere and become a starter somewhere and prove his, abilities to another team that desperately needs a tight end, like Miami, who doesn't have Mike Gesicki anymore. So, as far as Kansas City goes, they're 4-0. They won their first game by a touchdown, their second game by a point, their third game by 5 points, and their last game by a touchdown. So, they're playing all of these games this season to 1 possession, and in one case, 1 point. They beat the Chargers on the road 17-10. Keep in mind, Justin Herbert came into this game not necessarily 100%. Pat Mahomes, and I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, I'm just saying. Pat Mahomes, 19-29, 245, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kareem Hunt, in his return to Kansas City after being let go for his off-the-field stuff, 14 carries, 69 yards, 4.9 yards a carry. Samaje Perine had the touchdown, though. 5 carries, 14 yards, but he did have a touchdown. Kelsey, 9 targets, 7 catches, 89 yards. Xavier Worthy, 4 targets, 3 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. So I like Worthy in this game as a flex. Kelsey is a starting tight end. Mahomes is your starting quarterback, and you can flex out Kareem Hunt. With that being said, that's all my fantasy football advice that I have for you. So if you're watching or listening to this on playback and you have a question, make sure you direct it directly to this video and directly to this broadcast so that I can answer it and not miss it. I want to make sure that I see it. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here today, where sports meets life. And we're going to take our final fast break to honor our newest partner and perfect for football. Here is a message from Fire Pit Barbecue and Saloon, located on 264 New York Route 48 in Fulton, New York.
The aroma from the fire pit itself, you can smell it, and it just makes you want to come in and get the food. I feel like when you walk in the door, it's just very welcoming, from the employees to the atmosphere. We make it fresh every day, full of flavor, and you can get it plain and still has so much flavor, or you can choose from one of our many sauces, so you can get the same plate at the table, but each person can have a different flavor to it. When I first walked in, before the place was even open, I came in and talked to the manager, and she just made me feel like, just feels really comfortable, feels like a family. We work as a team, we work together. We do bands on the weekends, Friday, Saturday nights. We are doing trivia on Tuesday nights. Monday night, we're going to be doing some karaoke. So there's a lot of different things for kind of everybody. Once a month, Dan Tortora is going to be in here hosting his show with special guests from the sports community. Stop on down to Fire Pit Barbecue and Saloon. We are open 7 days a week, located at 264 New York Route 48 in Fulton. We also offer catering. Feel free to give us a call, 315-402-2004.
Fire Pit Barbecue and Saloon, the barbecue spot of choice. I've never had barbecue like I've had it at the Fire Pit, and I've been looking for years for a great barbecue spot, and I finally found one in central and upstate New York. Not to knock any of the other ones, I was just looking for a little bit different, and I found a lot of it different at Fire Pit. Many thanks to Adam Zakowski as well as Brooke Samo for joining the broadcast today for our Dolphin Dive in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Lemoyne College. Of course, plenty of baseball coming up. There's a game. There's 2 games this afternoon and 2 tonight, and they could decide the wild card because you only have to win 2 of 3. So if we see a win by the Tigers, the Royals, the Mets, and the Padres, then the wild card series will be over. If we see wins from the Astros, the Orioles, the Brewers, and the Braves, then we'll have a game 3. So excited to see what's going to come from that. Obviously, thanks to all of you for being here with us in our fantasy football advice in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Your place to watch all the games and more 7 days a week, no matter what the sport, what the event. They got a private dining area as well that you can reserve for your parties, so make sure you do that. 315-487-2222 to call to have things catered, to call for takeout, to call for delivery, and obviously, to have your event there and have them cater that as well. So just make sure you call over to the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, if you want to have your own private room with their amazing food and pick off their menu. Head to the Wildcat. And, of course, for takeout and delivery, head to them as well. YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. Worldwide, and wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And obviously under promise and over deliver because we're here. It's almost 12:30. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. All you have to do on any channel is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, and you can plug us right into your CarPlay, and you're listening to us in the car like we're on traditional radio, like we're literally right there in your backyard, whether you're in Syracuse, New York, or Denver, Colorado, or Los Angeles, California, or Germany, or Spain, or France, or Italy, or Mexico, or China, wherever you may be, we are with you. Only if you go and find us by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Make sure to follow and subscribe on the channels. Big time shout out to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, Carvel DeWitt, every single day at Carvel DeWitt, we have the DT Dolphin My Sunday, but on Wednesdays, it's buy one, get one. Wednesday, get out there today, get 2 for the price of 1. Thank you all for getting the DT Dolphin today, and every Wednesday, we give you 2 for the price of 1, and it is mint chocolate chip, ice cream, green for the Dolphins, topped off with hot fudge, whipped cream, and a cherry, and green and gold sprinkles for the Dolphins, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream. Go and get it today, 2 for 1 every Wednesday, DT Dolphin, and all throughout the week you can get the DT Dolphin. The Wildcat Sports Pub, Servomation, reinventing, reimagining, and reinvigorating the world of vending. You can see what they're all about. They're in colleges, they're in universities, they could be in your school, they could be in your place of business. They have totally changed how I see vending. I toured the facility, I saw some technology, some things that they do. They have water machines where you can tell the machine to take a fresh piece of fruit and drop it in your water and then send it out to you. It's incredible. Their coffee machines, their espresso, everything that they have, as well as the overwhelming amount of variety of food choices and the quality of that food and the kitchen that it's prepared in, and this massive kitchen. Whenever I thought of a vending machine, I never thought of a kitchen. I thought of like somebody putting together a sandwich in like a dirty alley. And now when I see the vending of Servomation, it's like, that's food that I would order at a cafe. That's food that I would go and get at a restaurant. And it's being made in this massive kitchen. So make sure you go out to servomation.com and see what they're all about. Mother's Cupboard, where I have my own sandwich. The Cuse Mac Mother, available to you 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And it is bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and eat it like a sandwich. Cut it up and have it with some syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. Thank you to everybody that's gotten it consistently all throughout the year. I cannot tell you how much I love you, and I appreciate that. Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding. Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world. Go to 201 7th North Street and ignite your taste buds in Liverpool, New York. Pizza Man, where I was last night. GG Cards and Brakes, Avicoli's, Great Lakes Honda City, Brian's Landing, and our all-new partner and barbecue spot of choice to just wake up all of your taste buds, get you ready and excited. It is a great location. It makes you feel like you're out in the country. It makes you feel like you're out in like the Carolinas. As soon as you park and you get out of your car, you can smell the food cooking. They're making it there every single day. They have brisket, they have turkey, they have chicken, they have pulled pork, they have ribs, and their sides are incredible. The cucumber tomato salad, reminiscent of what my mom would make growing up, to all of the things that they offer to you. The mac and cheese, the smoked mac and cheese. I can't decide which one I like more because I like them both. And, of course, their baked beans that are so very good. Their coleslaw. So many options, so many choices. Come hungry to Fire Pit Barbecue and Saloon. That's what I'm going to tell you. Brian's Landing, a fantastic place in Jamesville with a menu unlike any other place that makes me feel like I'm on vacation all the time. And, of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is something that I greatly appreciate. It's how we started off our multimedia marketing partnerships, and the template that I created, Lemoyne was the first to sign on and believe in it, and I cannot thank them enough. Dr. Linda Lemura, Bob Beretta, now Mike Lindberg, and Pete DeLora, the board, the student athletes and the coaches and the staff. Thank you so much for your belief in me. DT is with DT Dolphin. That Sunday is right down the road from Lemoyne College. How many schools can say they have their own Sunday? And of course, the Dolphins are every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, like today with Adam Sikowski and Brooke Samo. Always looking forward to telling the stories of the Dolphins. You can find them all on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you can also find our Lemoyne playlist. Go to Lemoyne on wakeupcalldt.com. On the homepage, you'll find the logo, and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com and Fins Up. Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find your Bobcats every single month and throughout the year with student athletes, coaches, and administration from men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, baseball, and esports. The Bobcat Buzz coming to you with a spotlight on the Bobcats that you will only find here. They have 2 campuses right up the road from downtown Syracuse on James Street and right off of Route 57 in Liverpool across the street from Avicoli's. And make sure that you go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find our BSC Syracuse playlist. You'll also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and shout out to those Bobcats as always. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every single week in what we call Bearcat Time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, just like yesterday. And FaZe, you sent me a question, so I'm going to get to that. So the Binghamton University Bearcats bringing you Moments with Marshall, background on Binghamton University athletics with Athletic Director Gene Marshall, and the Bearcat Break Room with student athletes, coaches, and administration all throughout the year, telling the story of the Bearcats, which I appreciate and value so very much. You will find Binghamton University on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe and hit the notification bell. Find the Binghamton playlist. You can also find them on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to bubearcats.com and go Bearcats. So we have a question that came in here. FaZe, I want to get to it. Who should I start? 2 wide receiver spots and a flex. Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Dontavian Wicks, and Xavier Worthy. Well, Dontavian Wicks had a good week, but I'm not necessarily sold on him. Tyreek Hill is just in an awful situation. So I'm going to say Evans, Wicks, and Worthy for you, FaZe. And FaZe, I believe you're new, so make sure that you join us here by subscribing. And I appreciate the question. So with that being said, I hope you all have a tremendous day. Thank you to my incredible guests, Adam Zakowski and Brooke Samo. Thank you to the Wildcat for all that they do to give us a great environment, great food, and hospitality at the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus. I hope you have a fantastic day. Please stay safe. And Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. God bless. No stress.